Good morning, my brothers and sisters. We're going to ask a question today. Does God answer every call from humans? So yesterday we took great comfort that in real time, in a time of real distress, the Lord really came down and really helped David. And then David responds. He responds affectionately, "I love you, Lord." And he affirms who the Lord is. "This is who you are to me, my rock, my fortress, my deliverer." And then he attempts to please the Lord by his actions behaviorally. And he sets his steps, and probably even more important, re-steps his steps towards the Lord. So the rescue of the Lord is in this context of relationship with him. So join me now in Psalm 18 as we will explore this context of this relationship. What is a relationship with God? I want to address two really beautiful verses in Psalm 18, and both have to do with the surety of the footing that one has when one is walking with the Lord. Now here, David, who's this great poet, is using physical metaphors to give light to spiritual reality. I'd like to point you to Psalm 18, verse 33. "He made my feet like the feet of a deer and set me secure on the heights." He made my feet like the feet of a deer and set me secure on the heights. Now, you may remember there's a devotional book. It's done in an allegorical way. It was written in 1955. It's called Hind's Feet on High Places. Well, this is where the author gets that imagery from Psalm 18. It was borrowed from there, and there's a character in the devotional. The character's name is Much Afraid. And she walks through this relationship with the Lord. I read it many years ago, can't remember much about it. But anyway, it's cool that that's where the imagery is from, Psalm 18. And then he says a verse that we've heard this concept before. "You gave me a wide place for my steps under me, and my feet did not slip." So kind of the same ultimate idea. So the Lord brings you to a bountiful place where there's open. You're not hemmed in militarily. You're not forced into a corner. And your feet did not slip. So I want to bring you to the most curious verse that I've found in Psalm 18 so far, and that's in verse 41. Listen to this. "They cried for help, but there was none to save." They cried to the Lord, but he did not answer them. So it begs the question is, did they really call, or did they fake call? If they really called and the Lord did not answer, then we're going to have to change most of the rest of the Bible. So you mean to tell me that the Lord does not answer cries for help? Well, or was this a description of a salvation moment of David's enemies? Well, I think we can look to the Lord's response to inform us whether this cry to the Lord really was sincere. Now, obviously, he's the ultimate judge, not you and not me, and I could be getting this wrong, but let's look at the evidence. Let's check the receipts, if you will. So what were they doing attacking the Lord's anointed, who is David? So this concept of attacking the Lord's anointed was a bridge too far for David. And through Saul's life, who was also anointed up by the Lord, and even after Saul turned nasty, even after he was not enjoying real fellowship with the Lord, even when Saul was being disobedient, and even after Saul was dead, David respected that office of the anointed of the Lord. If you want to read about that, end of 1 Samuel and beginning of 2 Samuel books describe this. So the question I have for these people is, where were they in the family of God just before they were experiencing military defeat? And what happens when you ease God out day after day after day? And then when the tide finally turns against you, you have this suddenly but apparently insincere moment. So the question we're asking is, was this a moment of real repentance or just regret for a series of unfortunate decisions? And in my humble opinion, this was more of a oh no moment rather than a true come to Jesus moment. So earlier in this very psalm, it describes those who really call. So verse 30, go to verse 30. "This God, his way is perfect. The word of the Lord proves true." Then here it is. "He is a shield for all those who take refuge in him, not some of those who take refuge in him. He's a shield for everybody who really takes refuge in him. So I'd say they did not really take refuge, or the Lord would have answered, because God is not mocked, as you know. Verse 25 here in Psalm 18, with the merciful, you show yourself to be merciful. With the blameless, you show yourself to be blameless. With the purified, you show yourself to be pure. With the crooked, you make yourself seem tortuous. For you save who? A humble people, but the haughty eyes bring you down. So the question we're asking is, does God answer everyone who asks sincerely, humbly, and submissively? I think the answer is yes. But does God answer the haughty, the insincere? Only if they ask humbly, only if they ask sincerely. So in other words, otherwise it's just words that they're saying. They're not posturing their heart in a way that pleases God. All right, so what's in this for us? Again, the word of the Lord proves true. He's a shield for all who take refuge in him. So if the battle is raging for you, take refuge in him. If today is the day that you hear his voice, harden not your heart. If today is the day of calm, well, then count your blessings. Maybe trouble's coming and he's giving you a chance, like the character in the book, much afraid, to set your feet securely on the heights. In that way, your feet will not, in a way that your feet will not slip, even if trouble comes. So the word of the Lord is true. He is not mocked. He is a shield for all who sincerely take refuge in him. Thanks for listening.